Yeah, we surprisingly, though it was not easy, like I said earlier, but we got the haircut and it was fine afterwards. And then to the amusement of his parents, they were like, how? Like, how did this happen? And so after then, it's just got better. Like, I had a couple of other sessions with him where I had to take him to the salon, and then to the point where he got used to the barber. When he goes there, he just sits down, he feels the clipper himself. Sometimes when it's vibrating, he just wants to hold it for us to just feel it, to be sure that it's safe. And then after a while, they get the feedback that they are also now able to take him to the salon themselves, so without Mr. Moses being around. So that's actually the goal. The goal is to have other persons do this thing. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It doesn't have to be the person assigned to them, the person teaching the drill or the task or the skill. Okay, so when one person is able to carry out that task with them and all of that, it means you're actually making progress. So yeah, so that point was also a very high point personally for me, and a couple of others really, but I think these two for me were just remarkable for me. Then okay, the fourth one says what? When did you record your first ever breakthrough? Okay, I think I already said that. Okay, that was 2014. Yeah, when my child spoke for the first time and all of that. But I think at this point I must actually say that my entire approach to working with special needs actually changed when I took the ABA training that actually certified me as an instructor for autism. Okay, because yes, I knew all of the technicalities before now, the whole things and all of that. Like, as you know, in Africa we're good with in Africa, will I say Africa? Yeah, basically I think most times we just know some of this theory, but most times we don't even practicalize them, we don't even put them into, we don't even know how to apply them, how to use them to get what we want, like get the results. We just tell, okay, just put the child down here, hold the child and all of that. But when working with a child, most times you have to individualize that child yourself. The child is the child. The child is not the child they worked with before the child. The child is the child. So if the child is James, the child is James. So don't think you're going to use the method you use working with Philip to work with James. It's not going to work. So you need to first and foremost understand the child and then know what to do. Because one thing most therapists up to now still struggle with is having the children dictate to them the pace at which they want to learn. In Africa, I don't think this should be the case, because for me, I believe in time. I believe in conserving time. I believe in managing time, using time to the best of my ability. When you give me a 30-minute session, give me an hour session, I want to be able to say at the end of the session that yes, this time I actually used it to the best. I did my best to make sure that I gave the best to that child within that time. So I'm not going to say I have just an hour and then my child is crying, he doesn't want to do this particular drill, and then I'm just going to allow the time to elapse and then I'll say I'm done and all of that. So that's to do with a lot of dedication, a lot of what do you want to achieve with the child. The child doesn't want to do this drill. Are there other drills that the child might want to start with? I'm just saying. So it has to do with your thinking, it has to do with your willpower, and then your dedication, your interest in wanting that child to actually improve and all of that. So yeah, basically I think my perspective actually changed when I took the ABA training, because it was not easy. Like, if you score below 85, in the final exam, you'll be asked to repeat it. So I think I actually wrote that exam like 2 times before I finally made it. So it was not easy, and this was like a 1 year to 6 months course, but I think it took me beyond a 6 months or thereabout, because I had to keep going over and over again, because most of the things that were being taught there are actually things I knew, so I needed to understand them very well. And then I thought I actually understood them. I took the test, and it wasn't funny, but eventually I was able to make the necessary score, and then I was certified. And then, so what I learned from that is, in ABA you don't do how do I put it? I don't know how to describe it really, but ABA has to do with practical. You don't tell a child to sit down without showing the child how to sit. You don't tell a child to drink water without showing the child how to drink. So everything has to do with practical. It's a pragmatic approach. So, in fact, I think my mind was actually open at that point. Like, the entire approach to my therapy sessions, my engagement with the children actually changed. In fact, my whole life actually changed, because I actually apply them everywhere also. So it has to do with action. So every action always has a consequence. Okay, so if you're telling a child to sit down, the child is refusing to sit down, and then you're cool with it, it's fine by you. At that particular point, something has taken place. You've taught the child to ignore you. You've taught the child that it's okay to not want to sit when an adult asks the child to sit. So at that point, for you, you're trying to respect the child, you're trying to just make sure everything's done. But for special needs children, for a neurotypical child, they may get to actually outgrow it, to understand that, okay, no, I have to obey the adult and all of that. But for a child on the spectrum, it's an issue, because at that point, the child understands that when I say sit, I don't necessarily mean sit. Because when I say sit, and then the child is still playing around, and I'm okay, it's cool, the child tomorrow will never respond to the word sit, because sit doesn't mean anything to the child. Okay, so you need to show the child what you mean by sit. When you say sit, you need to get the child to actually sit. When you say bring me this, you need to show the child to actually bring it. You don't just say bring me this, and then the child is going elsewhere without delivering the message, and you get up to go get it yourself. At that point, you're forming a character, you're forming a behavior actually. Okay, and what is the consequence? The consequence at that point is that the child is going to, that particular behavior is going to reoccur. It's going to keep showing up. You're going to keep having this thing. And what happens is it keeps accumulating, and you keep having, it becomes a problem behavior. When you not saying, my child doesn't hear, my child is naughty, my child is stubborn. No, it's because your child doesn't know any better. You haven't taught your child any better. So it's a lot, and this is just a lot. It's something I'm sure a lot of persons can also take that training and may not see it from the perspective that I'm seeing it from. But for me, it's been wonderful since I discovered that, because from that moment, every other child I worked with, it's been successes. It's been just remarkable. And then the thing about it is the pace at which they come. Ordinarily, you can work with a child for like a year, 6 months, thereabout, and then you're still struggling with a particular skill and all of that, and that can be very frustrating. But after this particular revelation or particular discovery, it's just been remarkable. I don't want to give a time frame to it, but I know how it's, for me, I know how the job is, and for me it's been wonderful. ABA approach has been wonderful. If you know how to apply them very well, it's been wonderful. It doesn't have to do with any child on the spectrum. ABA should be like a life approach. Okay, that's how everyone should want to learn. Okay, say what you mean and mean what you say and all of that. Yeah, so it's been a wonderful experience. After then, Okay, so the fifth question here is, what is your advice to parents? Okay, basically my advice to parents would be that every parent should always pay attention to their child. Autism diagnosis, some 3-4 years ago, used to be from the ages of 3. You can't. What that means is you can't actually label a child autistic before the age of 3. But about 2-3 years ago, thereabout or so, the new manual now suggests that autism can actually be diagnosed at the age of 2. So what that means is every parent should actually look out for their children. You know these things. You know what happens. You know how your child was in the womb while you carry your child. You know how the child responds to stimulus. You know how the child. You know everything about the child. The child comes out of your womb and is out there and it's not staring at you. It's not able to look at any object. It's not able to make a sound at 6 months, at all of those milestones. And then you feel it's just okay, it's cool, and then people keep telling you. By the way, there are also doctors who still live in denial, who just tell you it's a delay, it's a speech delay, it's developmental delay. Keep telling you all of these things. But what my advice to such parent, and whenever I get those kind of comments, is nonetheless, it is not terrible for you to start your intervention, even though you have the notion, or you've been given the assurance that it's just a delay and all of that. A delay, yes, is fine, but it's still advisable you start intervention anyway. Just start intervening. We never can tell. What that's going to be doing for you is, if you have started intervention early enough, it means your child is going to, before a certain age, be able to not come out entirely, because autism is actually a lifelong disorder. So at least be able to function without much support. Unlike those who just say, my child is delayed, is going to learn in time and all of that, and then you have them running here and there. At the age of 7, at the age of 6, oh no, my child is not talking. Oh no, my child can't stare at someone. Oh no, my child can't do this, can't do that. At the age of 6, 7, you even see some of them coming at 8, 9, and all of that. And what we ask is sometimes, what happened? And then you get all of this feedback. No, the doctor said it was just a delay and all of that. And then you kept your child for that long. You took your child to school. Your child is not performing as it should. And you feel it's okay. You feel some of you actually even mount pressures on teachers. You're not teaching my child enough and all of that, when you know that your child actually has an issue, because every parent actually they know these things. So my advice to them is, don't shy away from what it is. Okay, at the age of 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, you should be able to say no, something is wrong somewhere. You should be able to know your child. And then when you get all of these things, please reach out for screening and evaluation. It's very, very important. At least we have some centers here in Abuja where some of these things are done. And then I think we have a lot of centers in Lagos. We are coming up to speed with this intervention in Nigeria. So yes, there's help is almost everywhere. Okay, so just reach out for screening and evaluation, and get help. After your screening and evaluation and probably assessment, they'll be able to tell you, okay, probably at the age of 2, they can tell you, probably this child needs this kind of support. Let's place this child on this particular plan. And all of that. Then you know what you're working towards. And also, basically, I think parents should come out more and get help for their children. Help is there. I understand that it's not easy, but Yes, you can actually get help. Then the sixth question will be, what will you say is the biggest challenge in your profession? Okay, I think for me the biggest challenge is the fact that what would I even say is the biggest challenge? Because truth be told, the work is quite challenging. It's very strenuous, especially when you want to go all out for them. It's not easy. I won't lie to you. It's not easy really. So, but I think the biggest challenge for me would be that parents actually tend to indulge their children. When they come to you for help and all of that, you tell them what you want them to do, the plan, probably for a while, maybe a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan, and they tell you, yes, they are fine by it, let's go by it and all of that. They make you believe everything is fine. But then you find out that they're actually doing otherwise. Like you tell a parent, okay, this is what we should do, let's go by this diet plan and all of that. And then when tell you, yes, so we're doing a gluten-free diet. That's the GFCF SF diet. So no gluten, no casein, no soy, right? And then they tell you yes. So when they're coming to school or to the center, they bring all of the food you've asked them to bring. Then probably you just walk the child to the car or something or somewhere, or probably go to their home to visit them, and then you find these children taking fizzy drink, taking bread made of wheat and all of that. So you ask yourself then, what's happening here? I thought we're supposed to have a plan. I thought we're actually working with a plan and all of that. So how come this child is taking this? And they say like, no, the child just cried and then I had to just give the child and all of that. So basically it's been like forth and back. And what they actually not realize with this is, it's as though you were just wasting your time. That's what it means. If you're on diet, you're on diet. If you're not on diet, you're not on diet. So you can't do diet in the morning and do all the other junks in the night. No, it's still the same body system. You know how it is. Even if you have I don't know how to describe it, but a pinch of stain can actually mess up the whole food or something or whatever. That's how it is. So you can't give the child good food in the morning and then you're giving the child poison at night, because that's what it is to the child's body. You're trying to configure the child to respond to that particular food, and then you're giving the child another kind of food. Then what are you actually telling the body system? Fight out this body, fight. So it's really not very cool at all, and then you're messing up the child's body system and all of that. And what you're going to get is a lot of meltdown, a lot of tantrums and all of that, and it keeps coming back to you. It's just not a very nice approach at all. And then you can't say you're playing your child's therapist or whoever is in charge with your child, involved with your child and all of that. You're playing yourself at the end of the day, because this is aren't just easy to handle, and then you're not making it any easier also. Then the sixth one is, what will you say is the okay, I think that's the sixth one, the biggest challenge. Okay, I think also another biggest challenge will be the fact that our parents do not get the support of the states. In other climes, we have they have legislators, they have laws for children on the spectrum. So every year there's always an appropriation for them. So for their health care, for their education and all of that, for their welfare, it's always there. So these parents will always feel free to take their children to school, because every school will actually accept them, because one, there's funding for their care. So it means the government have actually paid for the care of those children. So schools are actually equipped to welcome and receive and support these children out there. Their food most times is subsidized, so parents just go with very little amount of money, walk into the store, they're able to buy their food and all of that, and then but over here, parents actually have to bear the brunt of everything by themselves. Schools here do not want to accept our children for obvious reasons, because one is it's not easy working with the children, it's not easy giving them the kind of help they need, so it needs a lot of resources, it needs to be deliberate, it needs to be intentional. So most schools actually want to just shy away from the responsibility of wanting to care for these children, because it's a lot, really, I must confess. But I think this would have actually changed if they actually had the backing of the government, if they had government support in caring for these children, if they had funding to pay special need teachers, that's the SEN teachers, to come help and help get the student, give the student the help they need. And then their food also, now we have to order for their food. Most of the food they ought to eat ain't made yet, so most times you have to order for the food, and man, it's just not easy. Getting those food is quite expensive. Their cereal is quite expensive. The milk, all of that. So it's really not very easy for parents to keep up, to say I want to do diet and then keep up. So you're doing for 1 month, and then what next? Okay, you're able to manage to do for 3 months. So what next? In 3 months, you're already spending more than, in fact, there's a lot, I must confess. So I think government need to step up more. Government need to come in and help the parents to really give the kind of help the children need to them, really. So government, please. And the funny thing about this is, some of these people in the government actually have these children lying somewhere. Some of them just lock them up somewhere in their home, just lock them up, get a nanny to just give them food, and some of them even treat them as if they are crazy people. So it's really, sometimes we wonder why this is, really. And some persons, I know of some children while I was working with my mentor and my boss, the person who actually brought me to terms with what I do today. We've actually recovered a lot of children. I think if I remember, like 2-3 children we had to go. She and her team had to go get back from the village, because according to them, the parents just send them to their grandparents in the village, let them go and stay there in the village. They don't know what they're doing here. They are embarrassing them here and all of that. So we had to go recover them, bring them here, and provided help, and they were able to function. They were able to fit into the society, do what at least is expected of them to do, and then act. Yes, so please, I think, please, it's not evil spirits, please, it's help. Unless, of course, you know what you've done. But if not, please, there's a disorder that is called autism. And we have other disorders also that is not autism, but that also needs special attention, that needs special care. So please, not everything is give evil or whatever note to. So please, it's really not a very good thing to do. Then the final thing here is my final words. I will have to take my final words from someone I love so much. I've studied about her, and I love her method of teaching and all of that. And yeah, so I'm going to take a quote from her. She says, the greatest gift we can give to our children are the root, responsibility, and the wing of independence. Okay? I'm going to take that again. It says what? The greatest gift we can give our children are the root, responsibility, and the wings of independence. Now, this quote is actually attributed to Maria Montessori. Okay? So, the greatest gift actually, and I quite agree with her, the greatest gift you can give to your child, to teach the child to live by himself or herself, to be independent, to be responsible. Stop indulging your children. Every child can learn. Now the problem here is you doing the teaching. You're probably not teaching it the way the child understands or the way the child can learn. So go find out yourself. Go work on yourself. Okay, so every child can learn. Allow them to learn. Allow them to explore. Do not indulge them. Do not say no, they can't do it. No, help them do this. Are you going to help them when they turn 18? Are you going to help them when they turn 20? Are you going to help them when they probably get into their own home? So please allow them learn. So thank you for now. I'll be taking other questions as they come. Thank you, and I'm signing up for now. Thank you.